Hi you guys, welcome back or welcome to my podcast called Love Sis. I'm so excited to be on the video because I haven't done this in so long. So I don't know if you're new, but I'm Vanessa and I've had a podcast for the past two and a half years, and I have a whole season, a season and a half where it's just audio, but I felt like I was pressed by the Lord to come on here and start doing face-to-face videos so that you guys can kind of get to know me a little bit better. And I have such a funny story of how I even got equipment. And to be honest, when I first started my podcast, it was something that I kind of just did off of a whim because, you know, I've always loved to talk to people, and people honestly ask me for advice, and I love just having those types of conversations with people at, you know, wherever I am, work or and so I also feel like it's such a way to minister to people. But I started off doing it like that, and then I felt the Lord tell me to take a pause with it. And so when I took a pause with it, I would pray about, you know, some type of outlet. God, I want to help people. The last thing I ever thought would be a podcast. I never thought that I would be like a podcast girl. I just thought that it was a space that I could talk with people. Yeah, but I do want to go deep into my faith, and I want to talk about Jesus. I want to talk about like the sides of me that I don't really talk about with other people. And I feel like what better platform than something with the longevity of the podcast. And so, funny story, because when I first started my podcast, I literally had no idea what I was doing. Like, I started on my phone, so it was like the craziest thing. It was like 2.5 to 3 years ago. I was just coming back from California, actually, and I felt in my spirit, this is when I was starting to get to know God, and I would feel in my spirit and hearing his voice that he wanted me to do a podcast. And so I was like, okay, but like how? Like, I don't even know. So I would like look it up, and I also was just like, that's not me. Like, I was like, I don't really think that's me. Like, I just didn't ever have interest in it. I did YouTube videos and vlogs and stuff, which I still do on my channel, but I was like, I don't know about this. But then I would notice that I mean, it's just my personality, but like I would go places and I really just love talking to people. I love connecting with people. I feel like the Lord has given me such a heart for people in general, just to want to connect and chat with them. And so I was like, I guess it makes sense, because I could literally sit in front of a camera and talk for 1 hour, and to me it feels like nothing. And I find myself talking to people for so long, and so I'm like, okay, I need to have like a platform where they can just like go, and if they want to chat, like they can talk. Not talk, I could talk, but they could listen to me there. So yeah, that was kind of like where I started, and I didn't do anything with video because it didn't make sense to me and I didn't really know how. And there's just such a funny story. And so anyways, before I get into it, I really just hope that you guys feel very loved and seen on this space. Like, that's my whole point. Like, I want to talk about my faith, but I also want to talk beyond my faith and just share like healthy habits and ways to live like a holy life, like how to be confident and self-esteem. Like, there's so many topics that I genuinely wish I knew when I was in high school. I wish I had someone who was older than me that I could look up to, who I kind of aspired to be. I think nowadays, like, there's just so many role models that aren't the best, which it's like more normalized, but then there's also those really good ones that are awesome and that we can look up to. But I feel like that's my whole point. Like, I really hope that I can just be a really wise role model to you of some sort and kind of just relate to you, because I'm in my 20s, I'm 23, so I mean, I feel like we all go through different types of stuff, and it's kind of cool to just like chat about, because we all have that in common when we're going in school. And I was an athlete, I played soccer, and I mean, I had like struggling things in high school. Like, I struggled with a learning disability and, you know, friends, and so just different topics like that. And so today I kind of wanted to talk about people pleasing, and like when you want to start something, like how to not let the fear of others consume you, because I literally lived my whole life, you guys, so much with that fear. Like, it crippled me. Like, I literally used to live strictly for the approval of other people, which we come to see as we read our Bible that that is not the way to live. And I also want to preface, I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I love him so much. I literally have dedicated my life to him every single day. I could not do anything without him. and I do try to spread my faith wherever I am, but I also want you to know that this is a space that's open to anyone of any religion, of any sort. You are welcome at this table with me. You are not judged. I know how it can feel to be judged by people, especially if you come from a different background, and I just want to preface that I would never want to make you feel that way, because I know I've felt that way, and it's a terrible way to feel. And also, Jesus does not do that to people. And so I know that a lot of things and people in churches and stuff have failed, and I do want to apologize on behalf of the Christian community if I or anyone has ever failed in that capacity to uphold, the name of Jesus. It's a badge of honor to walk and say that you are a Christian and believe in Jesus, and so we should be every day trying to replicate that in our everyday lives. And I do want to say I'm sorry. I hope that you guys can give us grace if we've ever felt like we've failed you of some sort. And I don't mean to make this sound like it's a type of just a broad community, but I just mean I know what it feels like when I first started going to church. It was just so new to me, and I can start there as well, kind of just share with you guys a little bit of my testimony. But I was just an average everyday girl. I didn't think I was a sinner. I didn't even know what that really was. I went to school, Catholic school growing up, but I never really practiced what the Bible said. I personally, when I was younger, I thought that it was weird. I didn't think that it was something I would replicate in my everyday life, until I hit a wall in my life, which was really hard, and I started to see things in my own life that wasn't fulfilling me. And there was just things in my life that just friendships and different types of my own mind about myself. There were just things that I would find myself thinking about myself that was so negative, and I didn't know how to break that cycle. I didn't know if I was just really hard on myself, which I was, but yeah, I just honestly was raised to love God. I never had any rebellion or anything like that, but I just didn't live. I didn't know. I wasn't aware. I stopped praying. I didn't pray. I went to high school and I just kind of did what everybody else did. I didn't really have a strong, firm foundation. I had a foundation, but it wasn't necessarily strong or firm. And I didn't really see a lot of other people doing certain things like that around me. So to me, it was just different until I went to college. And so when I went to college, I was playing soccer. I was in high school. I was 16, I think 17. I was playing a premier soccer league, and I remember tearing my ACL, which sucked. And from that point on, I was always really into sports and into my athletic abilities. My family and I were very close, and we all played soccer, so I always loved playing soccer. And I remember just when I tore my ACL, it just felt like a very confusing time for me, because I was playing sports my whole life, and I was playing with these people that I was growing with, and I felt like I had a community. And then the moment that I tore my ACL, it was such a big deal to me, because I was going to want to play soccer for college, and I really that was my goal. I wanted to play D1. I wanted to be someone who was really good, and I cared so much about my future. I worried so much. I didn't know how to let go of control of that. I did not know what faith was. I was just well, this is my life. I have to control the outcome. I don't have anything else around me, so it's all up to me, And the pressure was just so overbearing, between not knowing where I was going to college, not knowing what I wanted to do for my life. I always wanted to know what was coming next, which I think a lot of us live that way. I think that's how our bodies are programmed to live that way. It wasn't until I found Jesus that I knew what faith was. I knew what letting go of control was, and trusting him, and realizing that the way to live life is not being in a fearful mode of control and thinking you have to do everything, and one wrong move means your whole life is messed up. To me, that feels very isolating and a constant stress in my mind. I don't even know if I really slept. This constant overbearing of performing 24/7. And so when I tore my ACL, yeah, it felt like my whole world was crumbling down, because to me, I was going to be, a D1 athlete, and I did have a lot of coaches and stuff that I was talking with, but long story short, I ended up not able to go to the college that I had spoke with people about, and so they told me I wouldn't play the first 2 years, and so they kind of thought that I should go a different route if I wanted to play. So I made the decision at a young age with my parents that I would walk on to a college that was D3, and I can do that and still be able to play. So for me, it was like a happy medium. I did feel like I had kind of failed in a sense. Like, to me, I felt like a failure because D1 was the, I guess, standard I had told myself. But anyways, going from there, I ended up trying out, making the team, and I became really good friends with all the girls on the team, which was honestly everything to me, because I think that was my biggest worry, was going to school and like, okay, you don't know anyone. I'm like, am I going to make friends? I feel like most people going to college feel this way because, you know, I've talked with so many young girls and they're like, yeah, I just don't know if I'm going to make friends. And you obviously have that fear of if you'll be left out, and it's new, it's changed. Like, that's just so relatable. But, of course, you know, thankfully, I feel like being on a community of some sort does help with making friends. I did suggest to people, like, if you want to get involved in something like a sport or something like that, you're just bound to become friends with people, but, like, not necessarily. I mean, every story is different. But for me, I became good friends with the girls in my year, my grade, and we started to hit it off and do things together. And so my first year, I commuted. I didn't live on campus. It was another decision I had to make because I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to transfer or not, because I had this idea that I was going to possibly go back to D1. And I ended up staying there because I ended up really loving the people I was around, which was such a blessing to me because I had finally felt like I had my people, you know, and like I found my people, like these people are going to be in my wedding. Like, I was super close to my coach, super close to the people around me. The difference was, I think this is where it started to shift when I became, when I started to play soccer at school. After I tore my ACL, I noticed that because of the whole ACL injury, which, by the way, I could literally have a whole separate video on tearing your ACL because I not only did it once, but I did it twice, and I just know the setback that comes with that and the perseverance that comes with that and just how challenging it is. But when I tore my ACL the first time, I really took matters into my own hands of wanting to become a healthier version of myself. It wasn't since I was 16 that I really was just like, I'm going to start being healthier. I'm going to start, you know, going to the gym. I want to drink a little bit more water. And all of those little habits started very young for me because I tore my ACL. And because I was thinking so big, like, at 16, I was always training to play D1. I feel like it gave me that slight, I don't know if it was an advantage, but I also feel like it was like an advantage but a disadvantage because I wasn't able to handle I'm trying to say, like, I started to, like, drift away from my friend group because I would do things that were different. So I wasn't going out and drinking. I didn't have a desire to want to smoke weed or do these things. I have previously those things. I have done that. I've had my fair share of going out and, you know, with my friends and doing those types of things, but I quickly realized that that was not who I wanted to be, and it was not anything that I found fun. And that was sort of my journey of discovering who I was, what I wanted to be, why was I here. I just got super curious about those as the years went by. So I feel like that sort of plays a big role because sometimes when something happens in our life, we look at it as such a negative thing. But I truly think that me tearing my ACL at 16 was the biggest blessing, and I can say that now that I've gone through it because I would not have been who I was without it. I wouldn't have started to be curious about my health or caring about what I think or even learning how to come back from a sport. Like, it truly taught me perseverance. Like, I didn't know what that was until I was told, like, you probably can't play again, or it's gonna, you know, you might not be the same player you ever were. And I was just so determined to get back to a spot where I was, which is also just a whole other, you know, segment. I feel like so many people can feel stuck in that, and I talk to girls all the time about ACL. So but besides that, you know, I'm in college, and so I'm deciding that I kind of want to be a little bit different, not on purpose, just I literally didn't have a desire to want to go out and drink and stuff because I was in high school, and my friends and I at a young age, we did do that. Like, we would go out and we would, you know, go with the boys, and I did so much for attention. so much for the love of others, and I just wanted to be seen. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be accepted. And I think my biggest thing was I really liked when I would get compliments from guys. I wasn't necessarily throwing myself at them, but I knew what I was doing in the sense of, like, I really loved the attention they gave me. And I also think that goes back to my home life. Maybe not having a emotional present. Like, my dad and I are very close, but, like, we didn't really have, like, deep conversations. Like, my parents are Italian, so I lacked that. Like, I'm not saying it's his fault, but, like, I don't know if it's, psychologically it's kind of that, or I just think insecurity. Like, I feel like growing up, like, if you're not, taught biblically, or we all have insecurity. And so I started to notice that, of course, like, who doesn't like attention from that? Like, I wasn't really hearing it at home, and so I started to notice quickly that people were gravitating towards my looks. I was getting, like, messages and people saying things about my looks, and I became so obsessed and thinking that my worth came strictly from the way that I looked, that I put such an immense amount of pressure on myself that it just ruined me. Like, it made my inner dialogue so negative, to the point where I really felt like I was so unhappy with myself, that to the point it was like I had so much self-hatred towards myself that it consumed my whole life. And it was something I knew Jesus had seen and wanted to break off of me. And he had seen the whole thing. And so that's kind of a little bit about high school. Like, just that, like, that attention I got, I feel like sometimes people can think, oh my gosh, like, who doesn't want to be popular in school and get attention and be pretty and all this stuff? And for me, like, I struggled in school. Like, I get pulled out of classes. I know that I'm smart. I'm so intelligent. But back then, I didn't think that about myself. All I ever heard from my friends was that you're not that smart. Your GPA is this. My worth was just based on so many circumstantial things that I have such a low self-esteem. I didn't even see the true and beautiful things about myself. I started to get overcompensated with the way that I looked. And so I started to realize very quickly that worked for me. And so I would start to dress a little bit more provocative. I love fashion as it is, but that started to become something more deep down that I would do. I knew the attention that I would get if I dressed a certain way. I don't think I did it intentionally, but I think you're just insecure, so you don't know. And I started to do that in high school, and it just started to build my own habits of going to college. I put this immense amount of pressure on myself that, like, if I wasn't the best, or if I didn't perform the best, then I wasn't good. Which obviously isn't true. So, that was a struggle I had. I had all of this stuff that, like, I just accumulated from growing up and being in high school, and all these things with friends who would, or whatever. And then I started to think that I wasn't smart. So, like, I just depended heavily on the way that I looked. And I know that I could have went down such a scary path had I not met Jesus, because I could have used it for such, my advantage. And it could have led me to such a dark path. Like, I could have got addicted to drugs, or I could have just been in the porn world industry. I could have been, maybe I would have been the next new celebrity, but it wouldn't have done anything. It wouldn't have fulfilled me ever. Like, it's just, one thing I always had was compassion and a very loving heart towards people. I've always cared very, very, very deeply about people. One thing about me is, I have one of the most, like, emotional hearts ever. Like, I just care so much, and I know God gave me that heart because he wanted me to use it for people. Like, even though I was younger, I would feel for people who struggled. Like, the hurt and the broken, like, I truly have a heart, and I still had a heart for them. Deep down, I cared for them, and I felt very bad for people who were in situations that, maybe I was in, and I just wanted to somehow help people. I remember just saying to God, like, please, just let me help people. But even before I became a Christian, like, I did want to help people. I didn't know how. I wanted to go to school to be a nurse. But then I didn't, because I couldn't really deal with the blood. and all that science stuff didn't really interest me, but I was just like, I want to help people. And so I know that now there's such a purpose in my life, that all the things I've went through are to truly help other people overcome them, because I truly am an overcomer with a lot of stuff. And I'm 23, so you could think I'm young, but to me, that's shaping a majority of your life, and you are an adult at 20 at that point. And so, I mean, it's like those ages, those adolescent ages that matter like so much. And I'm just here to say too, like, even if you're 40 or 50, 60 even, it is never too late to change. It's never too late to give your life to God. It's never too late to want a new beginning. And I think that when you look back, you'll see how much God has really been there for you. He's always been there. And anyways, I guess going back to though college, I went to college and I started becoming really good friends with the girls on my team. And I started to like not really want to go out with much and stuff, so I think they started to notice that I was slightly set apart in that area. And from that, it started to lead me to kind of them excluding me slightly because of those interests. But that wasn't really like a big deal to me, because I kind of figured, like, I knew that I wasn't going to do the same exact things that people were doing. I decided I wanted to like decide and make a choice that wasn't who I wanted to be. And I was never judging anyone. Like, I would go out with people, but I just was like, I don't want this for myself. It doesn't make me feel good. Like, I just didn't have a desire. So what happened was I decided to go to school with them the next year and live with them. And we became, so much closer, and I'm finally feeling like, my life is good. Like, I'm starting on the soccer team, the coach loves me. And so because of that way that I was in high school of like heavily depending on the approval of others, that was where my worth was coming from. I was thinking, well, as long as my peers love me, and as long as, my coach includes me, and these people that I really admire love me, then that's awesome. I have it all set. It's all good. I didn't know that I was living for the approval of other people until my friends decided that one day they didn't want to live with me the next year. They decided to get a house without me for living the next year. And they decided to exclude me on it. I found out from a friend at a party. And I remember feeling for the first time, like, there's rejection, but like this was just like something I had never experienced before. I had never been in a serious relationship either before that. I was in some type of, it was not a relationship, it was like a situationship, which is a whole other story. But in high school I was in like one of those, but we never dated. I'd never taken anyone back to my house. I only say that to say, like, I'd never had that type of intimacy with another person of like romance where I would have been heartbroken. So the only best way I could describe it was like if I were to have had a boyfriend, it kind of felt like 6 to 7 of, like, I got broken up with 6 to 7 people. And that was how I would describe it to people, because the level of pain that I was experiencing was so harsh that I went into like a depression. Like, I could not find myself coming out of the light. And so, I went back home, I moved out, I tried to stay civil with the people, but I was so hurt that it was difficult for me. But I did say to them I wanted to forgive them. I just didn't know how. Like, I was like, how do you, forgive someone? My heart wanted to. I remember specifically saying, like, I really want to forgive you, and like, I still want to be your friend, but I don't know. I don't really know like how. And so forgiveness is like a whole other thing. And how do you forgive someone who like goes behind your back and betrays you, right? Well, then my grandma, she was asking me, my nanny, she's Italian, my dad's mom, whom I'm like best friends with today, but she was like, do you want to come to church with me? And honestly, my first response was no. I was like, what? Like, no. I was like, not really, I'm sorry, and I thought church was, I didn't have any opinion towards it really, but I just didn't find myself really, needing to go there, right? I only went to church when, on Easter or like Christmas or something. And so my grandma asked me that, and she was like, okay, no big deal, but she gave me this book. She was like, here, you can read this book. I think it's funny sometimes how we have to get to a place where we're so low to, I think God does that on purpose. Like, you know, it'd be awesome if we don't have to hit rock bottom, and I truly don't think everybody does, but to me, I was so hopeless that I was honestly just taking whatever came out. I'm like, yeah, I guess it won't hurt to read a book like every morning of something encouraging, you know. I'm like, obviously that's what I want. I wasn't ever opposed to church. I just was like, never felt like I needed it. I was reading this devotional every day, and I do believe that there was a lot of people praying for me. I believe in the power of prayer, and I believe that as I was reading it, you know, God was opening up his heart to me, and I was maybe slowly opening up my heart to him. And I started to think, you know, maybe, you know, I was raised this way, like having faith again would be such an important thing in my life, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the way that I want to live. I wasn't too familiar with it, but I was like, you know, I worry a lot. God says not to worry. Jesus came to die for me and my sins. I was like, I, you know, don't really want to go down the path everyone's going. I would find scripture that said, you know, this path is a narrow path, and I was like, you know, maybe this is something that works for me, but like, what makes this different than like every other thing, right? I don't even know if those were really going through my head at that moment, but I was just willing to give something a try. I really didn't have an expectation. And my grandma asked me again if I wanted to go to church like a couple months after, and I just said yes. I was like, sure, like I guess so. I could come with you. Seems like a fun thing to do. And I think all my friends were going to get coffee or something, and I was by myself, so I said, okay, yeah, why not? I'll hang out with my grandma. So I went, and when I was there, I don't know how to explain it, but when I went in, I just felt like I had felt this peace. I don't even remember what the message was that the pastor was speaking, but it just touched me. It touched my soul. It touched my heart. And I just literally was crying, like weeping throughout the whole entire message. And I was like, wow, like I just felt like I was kind of seen. I felt like God had seen the things I'd gone through. I had finally been able to just take like a very big deep breath. He was talking about how people, you know, are broken. I don't remember specifically, but just things like that I could relate to. Like I'd finally kind of felt like I wasn't alone, or that there was some type of way out, that like I could get past this depression, get past this sadness. And I just didn't want to be bitter. Like I did not want to not forgive my friends, but I did not know how. And God saw that. He saw my heart, and he saw that he sees the heart above all else. He really does. And he loves everyone the same. Like no one's better because they go to church every Sunday. No one, and I hope no one ever makes you feel that way. Jesus sees your heart. He saw my heart at that moment, and he was trying to call me back home, like say, hey daughter, like I have a better way for you. Like I want to save you. I want to heal you. I want to do this with you. He knew that I just needed a friend. Like he knew I just needed some type of friend or person to just do this with and get through this with, because I did not see a way through. And I don't know if that can sound dramatic, but I'm someone who loves really hard, and so when I have friendships, like I would give my all to my friends and my friendships, and I think it led to a lot of stuff like trust issues. I was scared to open up. I was like, how am I gonna have a boyfriend? How am I gonna have a husband? Like I'm not gonna trust them. Like I gave my all to these people, and then the next day they just behind my back completely betrayed me. And well, what if I don't know if I could ever trust them again. And so he saved me because he wanted me to have a better way out. And I know he wants the same for you, and I'm not above anyone. He just really sees our heart. And sometimes, you know, he'll save us, but we have to choose too. And so I left that service, and there was a woman there who came up and talked to me. And she was just saying to me how God sees my heart. And she was just like saying these encouraging words over me, and saying how she sees me and God sees me, and he's, you know, trying to help me. And so that was like so crazy to me, because I was like, how does she know? I didn't tell her anything. I'm like, how does she know? And she's like, God knows. Like he sees everything. He's seen what you've gone through. And at that moment I had really truly known that like God had made himself so real to me, because I didn't know how someone who didn't know me personally at all or my business was starting to say things to me like that I was going through that was resonating so much with me and my situation. And so it changed me, and it made me believe, it made me have faith again. And I think it's funny because I'm really a woman of faith. I truly live life based off of faith. And before, I used to live life based off of control. And I used to live life on the way that I could outcome it. Okay, so to be completely honest, my camera literally just cut out, so I don't quite remember exactly where I was. But I do remember I was saying something along the lines of being hurt, just, dealing with those types of things, being hurt in college. It led me to want to have a stronger relationship with faith in Jesus, and it changed my life because all of the things that I was struggling with prior to really, really helped me. All of the things that I would struggle with prior to having faith started to come to the surface, and I was able to kind of deal with those things as I was going to church and reading my Bible and reading my word and those different types of stuff. It was really helping me to be able to kind of deal with those and face them head on. And what I noticed about myself was that I used to live life based off of completely of the approval of others, and it's something I daily have to die to. It's something I daily have to remind myself not to, be scared. And I think that I always wanted to be someone who was a leader. I always wanted to do different types of things on my own, and the fear of man can really keep you held back. It can keep you stuck. It can actually literally, truly cancel and cut your purpose out of your life because you're so scared of the opinions of what other people are going to say about you. You put so much emphasis on their approval of you that it takes away all of the joy that is able to come into your life. Just like the Bible says that the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but Jesus has came to give us life and life abundantly. And so I had so many times of those where I wanted to start a channel, but I didn't because I was scared of what my peers would think, or I wanted to stand up for myself, but I didn't because I was afraid of what that person would think. And the thing with people pleasing is that I noticed that when you are a people pleaser, you're actually not necessarily so much afraid of wanting the approval from the other person, but more you don't like being uncomfortable, and you don't like being in an uncomfortable situation where you have to say no, or you don't want to hurt them, so you feel bad. And I lived my life so much of feeling bad for people, where when I'd say no, they would be mad at me because of guilt, because of shame. And Jesus cancels all that out. He truly, truly cancels it all out. And learning that has changed my life because I live for one, I don't live for the approval of other people. And let me just give you guys a scripture in Luke 16:3. He was only concerned with pleasing God. Jesus was never manipulated by crowds or by the approval or the disapproval of anybody else. He lived for an audience of one. I try to please the one who sent me. John 5:3. And it means not being scared of what other people will say. It's being okay with the fact that people misunderstand you or don't understand you, think that you're crazy, may not agree with you. It takes courage to stand against or stand up for something that you strongly believe in. And some scriptures that back up about people pleasing. It says in Galatians 1:10, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." That's a pretty big one. "Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." Colossians 3:23, "Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men." Thessalonians, "But just as we've been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, so we speak not to please man, but to please God, who tests our hearts." Proverbs 29, "The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe." Those are just a couple scriptures that I really always go back to when I want to try to only please God, and I feel like people pleasing, for me, it was something that I thought I had to do, which is so weird. When I first started to come close to God, I felt like I had to constantly help someone. So even if it was a good thing, hey, can you get coffee with me and can you help me? Well, I thought I thought out of me serving that I had to do that because someone was asking me, even if it was a good thing. And I quickly came to realize that I was getting so burnt out. I was getting stressed. I was feeling like I was burnt. I couldn't do anything for anyone because you truly cannot give what you don't have. You can't, do things without the capacity that the Lord fills enough for you to have. And you also want to please God, and there's going to be such a peace that comes with it. And it was something I really struggled with, like the approval of other people. It was something I struggled with as well. And all these different types of things that as I started going to church and, having a relationship with God in general, and making it not just about Sunday, but throughout my daily week, and, reading my Bible, reading what the Word says, I started to actually form my own identity that Christ gave me. And I stopped doing things out of lack of love from other people. I stopped dressing a certain way because other people were, approving of it. I stopped, doing different types of things to get attention because I felt like it's what other people loved. I mean, for a long time, I felt like I really had lost myself because I didn't know who I was. I was just constantly feeling like I had to live for the approval of other people. Like, even in the church, there were some instances where I didn't even know what to wear anymore because I thought that I had to be what other people said I had to be. I thought that I had to look a certain way. I mean, I have gotten so many, comments as I was going to church. And it's made my skin pretty thick, but you'd be probably, astounded at so many different comments of, you don't look like a Christian, or, you don't really look like you fall into that category. I really believe that I am here to break that stereotype. You don't have to look a certain way. Hating myself because I, maybe don't quote unquote look like, or feeling like I have to strive to owe someone something, an explanation that, or prove myself that I really am who God says I am. And it really led me astray of my own identity, of just starting to believe the lies that people would put onto me. And I quickly came to realize that I was truly living for the approval of other people. I cared so much about what they thought that it stopped me from my purpose. It stopped me from my calling. And caring about what other people think of you and having the fear allows you not to step into the thing that God has actually called you to do. Because half the time, and I bet you a lot of the time, the things that Jesus is going to call you to do is going to actually require you to stop living for the approval of other people. It's going to require you to do something uncomfortable that other people might not like, or yes, you will be judged, or yes, you will be made fun of, or mocked, or whatever. And to just be okay with that and know that He's your defender, and you don't have to get even. You don't have to, be offended. I know that it can hurt to go along that path, but the fruit of the things that you do when you do follow God, the peace, the joy, the love you have for something, the way you glow when you do something you love, or when someone comes up to you and says, that's really helped me. I wouldn't even be doing a podcast. I wouldn't have a YouTube channel. I would do nothing if it was for the fact that I cared what other people thought. Because when I first started doing YouTube, people made fun of me, or they were like, I could never do that. That's weird. I could never put a camera up, but that's weird. It also makes you not judge as much. It makes you not want to judge as much. And I just feel like when you break free of that, it's so freeing. Sometimes I really just say to people, I encourage you, just do it once. Someone calls you, and if you don't want to go to that thing, or you don't want to, you don't feel the Lord is saying that you should do that, then I would just say no. And let it be uncomfortable for the first minute, and then take a deep breath, because now you don't have to go, and you said no, and it's okay, and they should still love you. And if they don't, then that's not your problem. It's not your problem if someone else doesn't want to talk to you because you simply don't go. You have a right to not want to be able to do something, especially if the Lord is calling you not to do it. And so as I started to learn this, I was just put in positions to have to say no, until it started to become something that I learned. And now I'm okay with it. I still sometimes absolutely struggle with it 100%. If I feel like I, have to go film something, I still can have that thought of, is that, too much, or is this going to offend someone, or I don't want to, be I just have to say, Vanessa, stop. Like, no, we live for God. I live for the approval of one. And it's changed my life, living for the approval of one, choosing not to drink amongst my peers. It's difficult to be in a position possibly where you're put on the spot, like, hey, why aren't you doing this? Or, hey, like, why aren't you having sex before marriage? Like, a lot of other people, is there a reason? And being bold about sharing your faith. But once you start to not care and you only care about the approval of Jesus, it changes you. It makes you free. It's to please him is everything. It makes me so happy to please my Father that I start to not care about what they think of me, if they think I'm weird or not. I delight in it. And then it says in the Bible to delight in it. It says that to rejoice for when people say all kinds of evil against you and speak ill about you. In Matthew, it says that, rejoice. And your reward is in heaven. And so, yeah, I feel like it's just such something that will set you free. And a lot of the times it's linked to your creativity of what you want to do, of the things you're put on this earth to do. Like, how would you ever start something new and different, or start something you've always wanted to do if you're too afraid? Like, you're too afraid, you're stuck in fear, you're stuck in bondage. It's crippling. And so I encourage you to step out of the boat, step out of your comfort zone, and do something that maybe you wouldn't usually do, but after this video you're inspired by, the fact that I too was like you. I was someone who struggled so deeply with caring about my peers, dressing up for the attention of other people. And so let that all just go, and you're going to feel such a relief, such a relief of pressure over your back, a weight lifted off of you, that you just get to live for one. And you don't have to perform for God's love. You don't have to do anything for God's love. He loves you unconditionally. You're unconditionally welcomed and loved as you are, as you come. And the best thing that I've ever done is have a relationship with Jesus, because I truly he's my best friend. I can't do life alone. We all need someone, and it's so awesome that I get to have someone who helps me. I say to myself 100 times a day, God, help me in this, please. I need help with this. I can't do this by myself. Before I do this podcast, I pray, God, let the Holy Spirit touch the people who are going to hear this. Let him please just help me through this, guide me through this. And so it's also an act of humility. It's having a humble heart, a humbleness about you that God does with you over time as you start to migrate into his word and different types of stuff. So that is my small take on people pleasing, and kind of just a little bit about me. If you guys are new to my channel, I do speak a lot of my testimony and stuff, and so I kind of just briefed over it a little bit since I have ones on my channel, but I know that this is my first video, which is not where it's not face to face, and there's other videos I have of speaking about my testimony, but just for kind of a new intro on YouTube, I thought I would maybe go over that with you guys. I hope that it really encouraged you to know that you're not alone. I hope that this just is a safe place where you don't feel judged, where we're going to talk about all different types of topics, and I really want to try to just extend any help that I have gone through, anything I've gone through, I want to extend it over to you. I know what it can feel like to be alone and to be judged, and I hope that's never how you feel. I hope you feel like I am on this journey with you. That's one other thing I wanted to say. I am the least perfect person I have never claimed to be. I have never claimed. However, I know that there is a standard I must uphold to carry the name of Jesus and to call myself a Christian. And so I want to say, bear with me, give me grace as well. I am learning. I am not here to make anyone feel like I am telling you what to do, like thou shalt not tell, but I will definitely give you urges of things that I urge you not to do, so that it's out of love, and things that I wished I'd not done, things I wished I had done, and that I feel like is a true friend. And I just want to say, though, I'm not perfect. I've never claimed to be. I'm on this journey with you. I'm growing with you, so please give me grace as well as I am trying to, but just know my heart is there. I love Jesus so much, and I want to make him proud, and I really feel like he's called me to step up and speak about the things that I know and share my things with people that are also going through it. And so what better way than, and I wanted to share actually why I even started doing the video, because it was about a month ago, and then I'll close out, but it was about a month ago where I was home, and I had a friend who was at church with me, and he said to me randomly, like out of the blue, he was like, Vanessa, I have a ton of equipment that I want to share with you, and he was like, you can use it for something. I feel like the Lord wants me to just let you borrow it for some time. And I was like, what? So he brought it over, and Lord had already spoken to me about a podcast, so I was already anticipating on starting it, but I just knew I had to get like a mic, I knew I had to get like lighting, and I knew it cost money, so I was just waiting for the right time, searching up all the things of like where to do it, how to do it, and so it's funny because he came over and all of this stuff was podcast equipment, movie filming equipment, like studio equipment, microphones. I have 3 ring lights that are like actor sing production type of things, a camera that's like I could never afford, all of this equipment, like all this high-tech, like intense stuff. So when I tell you that God will provide for you the things he speaks over you, I am a testimony that he provides the things that he has for you to start. And so just ask him, get aligned, ask your dreams to be aligned with Christ's. Ask him the things that he has in store for you, and they're going to surpass any dream that you've ever had, because he's the creator of everything. He's the creator of you. He knows your beginning to end. He knows every hair that's on your head. He knows you personally. He knows everything about you. He's obsessed and in love with you, and he wants you to step into that purpose. He has things for you that nobody else has. He has a plan and a purpose for you. It tells us that in the Bible. It tells us that in the Word, that he has plans and purposes for us. Plans not to harm us, to give us hope in a future. In Jeremiah 29:11, he says this about us. And so I just thought it was so encouraging. Like, truly, he gave me the equipment to start. So, I mean, what more confirmation can a person need to do that? And so I thought it was so cool because, what with my walk, growing with God, you'll start to hear his voice, which is a whole other episode I could do. But you start to hear his voice, and you start to know, what it sounds like, the thoughts he gives you, like, are they real? And so I remember when I did the podcast, I wasn't even sure if this was what he had for me, if this was his will. And so I would ask him. And he makes things so clear when you ask him. Like, I was like, okay, Lord, I hear you. And then not even on top of that, I asked him and he answered. He literally provided for me, because I was like, okay, but God, you want me to do this, but how? So whenever he asks you something, he's always going to back it up with a way for it to actually happen, because that's how good he is. And I could never make this up. And I know someone out there is going to say this is a coincidence, but the truth is it's not a coincidence. And he truly, truly provides the things he needs for you. That's just one of the hundreds of ways he's provided for me. And I'm so excited to kind of share more of my journey with you guys, but I hope that this was just some encouragement to your day. I'm going to decide which days I want to post. I'm still not 100% sure, and I'm also going to set up the mics and stuff so the quality will be better, but I just wanted to get something out there. I felt it pressed, and I don't want to delay the process of anything, and so I hope that this encouraged you. I'm so excited to be back on this platform and just sharing things with you, so I'll just pray over you guys, and we can kind of go from there. But God, I just pray, I'm so thankful for the people watching this, God. I pray that the Holy Spirit would just touch them on the other side of this screen, God, to just be themselves, God, to be the person that you've created them to be. God, I pray that peace would just surpass all understanding in their life, God, all the worries they have, God, the ones who are broken, hurting, dealing with heartbreak, dealing with issues, and dealing with trauma, things that hurt them, God. God, I pray that you would just touch them right now. I pray that you are just figuring out the plans you have for them, that they would just put their trust in you. God, I pray you would call the people home, search their hearts, God, and let them know how much you love them. Let them know how you have a beautiful path for their life, God, that you've always seen the things that they've struggled with. You've seen their tears, you've seen their cries, you see their worries and their stresses, that you're already figuring it out, God, that you're doing the things that they want. You're giving them their heart's desires, and you're changing them, God. God, I pray that you would just give them peace, and more peace that passes all understanding through this video, God. I pray their soul would be at rest, that they would come to know the Creator, that you are the dream of everything, God, that everything else that they want, God, let it just be known to them that those things will never, ever, ever, truly, ever fulfill them like you will fulfill them, Jesus. God, I pray this over the people listening. I pray this over that one person today who's hurting, God. Give them hope. Give them encouragement, God. Give them just things that they need, that you know that they need, God. Make yourself so real to them. I pray that you would figure out all the situations that are going wrong with their lives. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. I pray you guys have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys in my next episode. Bye.